Hello, everyone. This is Solomon Wilcots, and welcome to the Believe in Bengal podcast on Bally Sports, Ohio. Right now, I want to introduce a very special person. Of course, he is a former NFL MVP, and he also is a former NFL Man of the Year award winner. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you're winning one of those, you're special. If you win them both, it's like talking to the burning bush. Mr. Kenny Anderson, former Cincinnati Bengal quarterback. Kenny, so great to have you on the show today. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Solly, and it's always a pleasure to be with you and see your smiling face.
Well, it's good to be on with you. And look, 16 seasons as a Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, and you had some really great moments, obviously taking them to a Super Bowl. You ran into those Pittsburgh Steelers teams of the 70s way too often. But the fact that you survived it, and you're still with me here today, that tells me you were one bad dude, Kenny.
Well, I don't know about that. My knees bother me. My neck's bother me. So that may be some repercussions from those Steelers defenses. But, in that era in the 70s, of course, the Steelers were the dynasty.
Yeah.
But the Oakland Raiders were very good. The Miami Dolphins were really good back, in that era. And, and of course, we got the Steelers twice a year. And I will say this, that I think during our time when I was the starting quarterback, we had by far the best record winning percentage against the Steelers of any team in the National Football League. So it wasn't 50%, but I think it was getting close to it. The next team was about 30%. So but it was a great era to play football.
Yeah, and I've been in that building, so they still speak of you with great reverence. Of course, when you set an NFL record for completion percentage of 70% throughout the entire season, as you did in 1981, and that record stood the test of time, 25 years until Drew Brees came along and broke it. I think it's a testament to how you were carving people up. And I want to start by kind of looking back at the game on Sunday at the Cincinnati Bengals, because what they're doing without Joe Burrow, I think it's a testament to the kind of coach that Zach Taylor is, and it's a testament to who they are as a football team. I'm going to talk about Jake Browning in a moment, but the fact that the Bengals have now won back-to-back games, 2 games in, of course, a span of 6 days. What does that tell you about the coach, Zach Taylor? What does it tell you about the players collectively?
Well, I think that the coaches have been willing to adjust their offense to fit, Jake. We didn't see it so much that first game against Pittsburgh. We kind of struggled a little bit, but from then on, all of a sudden we see him under center a little bit more. We see them running the ball consistently. We may not get yards all the time, but they're giving a consistent chance to do it. They're moving him around in the pocket a little bit, targeting Jamar Chase. I think I heard a statistic the other day on one of the talking heads and said when they target him 10 times, the Bengals are undefeated or some great record like that. So let's put the ball in his hands. But, we know we've got, great skilled players, and then our defense, stepping up when they have to make plays, holding the Colts offense, who's been scoring a lot of points, to 14 points, gives you a chance. But, unknowns. I mean, Hayden Hurst gets his first, NFL touchdown.
Yeah.
Brown, the running back, gets his first NFL touchdown in this game. So it's nice to see him back healthy and getting a shot, because he's got that speed that maybe the rest of the guys in the backfield don't quite have yet.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Yeah, it's clear that what Zach Taylor has done and the things that you mentioned, putting them under center, moving them half rows, moving them around in the pocket, featuring the run game, heavy dose of the run game. What it's done, it's helped them to protect the quarterback better. They've also gone 6-man protections. They were doing a lot of empty stuff with Joe Burrow with 5-man protections. but they're heavy with 6 and sometimes 7-man protections, really shoring that up, and then scheming someone open at the next level. And the run game, obviously, you can go more play action, a little more RPO stuff that buys you a little bit more time.
Mhm.
He wasn't sacked at all against the Indianapolis Colts, and they came in with the second most sacks behind the Baltimore Ravens defense, 42 on the season. And they didn't touch Jake Browning at all. So I think to your point, Zach is really giving us a different design, allowing Jake Browning to become better. What are you seeing with him? Because, he's had his first 3 starts, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Indy. He's had a completion percentage of 73% or better in his first 3 starts as an NFL quarterback, which I think is spectacular. What have you seen from him that he's bringing to the table to help make us better?
Well, he hadn't played a lot in the NFL, but he's been a winner and successful at every level. I mean, how many state championships did he win in California? He set records at the University of Washington. Yeah. So he knows how to play the game. We were at the Steelers game, and you could tell he hadn't played much. I think he was, late on some of the throws, forcing some of the throws, trying to maybe do a little bit too much. And then, they didn't run the ball against Pittsburgh. And I guess that was the disappointing thing because, with Pittsburgh's offense, they weren't going to score a bunch. So you can stick with the run knowing it's not going to be a high-scoring game, even though you may not be successful early on with the run. But I think what we've seen in the last 2 games, number one, he's had more practice reps, and the team, that's the amazing thing is the team has confidence in him. They've seen when he's been here how hard he works. He comes in on his off day and goes in the defensive back meeting room to help them out and kind of trying to do whatever he can do to be a good teammate and to make the team better. And, he was saying in the paper the other day that when he was on the scout team, a lot of times the coaches will tell him where they want the ball thrown, and it's not the ideal place to throw, but he gets a chance to work with using his eyes and trying to stick it in some tight spots. So, all of that, he kind of took into account. He had a good chance to watch Joe Burrow the last couple of years, how he operates. I think that was a great influence on him. And, didn't turn the ball over in Jacksonville, had the 1 pick 6, and looked like there might have been a little miscommunication between him and the tight end, and the ball was batted a little bit.
Yeah.
But, no, I think he's making plays and not trying to do too much.
Absolutely. And you got to give, I think, this team a lot of credit. I think the team has shown us a lot of character. I'm happy when I see a team that maybe they're without their best player, but they still go into it and say, we got a chance to win. Because as you well know, it's really about the sum of the parts and not necessarily about one player. As good and as great as Joe Burrow is, I'm just glad to see this team rally together and go out and play and be as competitive as you can be. And then let's see where the chips fall. Hey, Kenny, I want to stop down and talk about you a little bit because I think our viewers should really understand that you've had a major impact on our sport, on the National Football League, and the way that the game is played, particularly at the quarterback position, because I call you the original West Coast quarterback. And we can say that because, it's been well documented, and all the interviews done by Bill Walsh, the inventor and creator of the West Coast system. He was your offensive coordinator right here in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Bengals. So kind of help our listeners to understand what the early days of the West Coast offense looked like. What was its intent? We hear about getting the ball out quickly and fast so that you can have the high completion percentage. But what were some of the things relayed to you from Bill Walsh that helped you settle into this offense?
Well, you mentioned a couple of the game was so different back then with only a 40-man roster. Every snap was a tight end, 2 wide receivers, and 2 running backs because you didn't go 3 wideouts because you only had 3 on the roster.
Wow.
So it was different back then. You didn't have all the spread out things. But I think, as much as anything, the West Coast offense was a system of how you organize the offense by protections, the way that you called for formations. But I remember, the thing that Bill stressed with me from day one was footwork, for a quarterback, to be ready to throw the football when things develop. And we would, I remember the draft was in January in those days. I moved down to Cincinnati in February, and we were working out, and all I'm doing for the first week is okay, we're going to 3-step drop, and I'm standing there with the ball in my hands and pivot your foot, and I'm just walking, stepping in place. 1, 2, 3, get ready to throw. And then it's on a 5-step drop. Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get ready to throw. Okay, it's a deep 5 and a hitch. Okay, you work through all the different drops that we had, and then he was kind of the first guy that really timed the quarterback's drop up with the depth of the route. If you're throwing a square out to the backside, it's 5 no hitch. If you're talking about a 82X in or Z in, then it's a good 5-step drop and a hitch and throw. So everything was timed up with the drop for the quarterback, and it was a progression that we went through. It was, you got 1, 2, 3, where's my outlet? 1, 2, 3, where's my outlet? Check your hot. Who am I looking at here? So it was just, so well thought out, so well put together, and had a lot of success with it, even still today. And, although some of the people, wouldn't recognize the West Coast offense from when I played by what they're doing with it now. But again, it's still the same kind of protection and same kind of concepts. Back in the early mid-'70s, everything was the deep ball. Everything was the deep ball. Well, Bill worked it out that we're not only stretching the field vertically, but we're stretching it horizontally. Right. We're putting every receiver, in the progression somewhere. Okay, if I remember 86 halfback curl. There's always a 4-man line. Okay, middle linebacker goes strong, throw the halfback curl. Middle linebacker goes weak through the tight end pivot. And then you had your options from which side you went to, for your outlets. But it was, a very successful offense. And we were completing, 60% in a day when, quarterbacks, a good quarterback was throwing 50%, completing 50% of his passes. It used to be, if you had a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, that was about what was standard in the league. Yeah. Well, we wanted 3 or 4 to 1. Wow. We wanted to get it out. We didn't want to take sacks, and throwing the ball on a flare to a fullback and making it 2nd and 8 instead of 2nd and 10. That's a good play.
Yeah, I love it. Now, so I want to ask you, because you understand the fundamentals of everything that was in this offense, and I thought one of them was just the quarterback, and you were a great athlete. The quarterback had to be excellent because the footwork that you described meant that you had to be able to move your feet in this sort of coordination and move and always be ready to throw. So you had to hit the top of that drop, ball had to come out, but your mechanics and your fundamentals had to be so good that who is the quarterback? Say that if you see the offense today and a quarterback in that offense who operates similarly to how Bill Walsh would have imagined it, who would that player be today?
Well, I think one of them is Brock Purdy, who's had a lot of. I think another one is Joe Burrow.
I agree.
Whose footwork and mechanics are just, outstanding. And he's, and part of it is, reading coverages, know what you want to do. So, you got an anticipation of where the ball's going to go. And I know a lot of times if I'm going, number 1 is the Z and number 2 is the tight end and number 3 is the X. On my 3rd step, it might be a 5-step drop, but on my 3rd step, I know Z's out of it, and on my first hitch is going right to the tight end. My 2nd hitch to the weak side, and then the flare control. So you learn to eliminate those to get through your progressions quicker.
And you know what? I'm just going to tell you that you are cooking with gas, my friend. We all know that the 2021 season, Joe Burrow led the league in completion percentage for the entire season, right around 70%, right? Well, Brock Purdy, who you also named, just set an NFL record, particularly with the 49ers, 7 straight games of 70% completion rate or more. That he broke the record previously owned by Steve Young and Joe Montana. So you nailed it when you gave us the name that those 2 guys, I think, very much, I think, emulate a lot of the things that Bill Walsh wanted to see in his quarterback. I want to move it forward a little bit because the Bengals next up on the schedule is the Minnesota Vikings. They have resuscitated their playoff hopes by winning each of their last 2 games. What's going to be needed to finish out these next 4 games in order to get to the playoffs as you look at this team today?
Well, I think continuing to do what they're doing, running the football, and that, boy, does that help the offensive line out.
Yeah.
And they, that's one thing we haven't mentioned is how they've stepped up, the last, couple of weeks, and win the turnover battle, and making big plays on offense and not giving up big plays on defense. And big plays don't have to be the 40-yard throw down the field. We saw the screen pass to Brown that went 70 for a touchdown, their first touchdown. So, but you gotta create some opportunities on offense, deny them on defense. And, I like our weapon, and this number 2 kid, this Money McPherson, to have him in a tight game that know you can count on him. I mean, for him, a 55-yarder is a chip shot.
Wow.
So, no, I mean, but they've got good skilled players, put the ball in their hands, let them make plays. But I think more than anything, what I really like this team is their cohesiveness, their togetherness. They hold each other accountable. They know what it takes to be successful, and they're willing to pay the price working to be successful. How these guys prepare during the week, the amount of time that they spend, and then the amount of time that they spend together. It may be a quick game of ping pong between meetings or something like that, or after the day is over. But I think they generally like each other. They hold each other accountable. They expect to win. And, and I think, Zach is a play caller. He's not afraid to lose. He's gonna call the game to win when some of us just say, "Oh, Zach, just run and kick the field goal." Well, they're going for it to make a first down and score a touchdown. So I like the way that they're calling the game. And it's they're a fun team to watch.
Well, they really are. I want to dig a little bit deeper because you talked about this earlier. Working the quarterback under center. A lot of today's quarterbacks want to be in shotgun. They don't want to have to turn their back to the defense as they're pulling out from center. And they want to have everything out in front of them, get it out. Why is playing under center so very important? Because we're hearing a lot of that. And we're going to make this very clear for our listeners and our viewers, how it helps the quarterback, how it helps the offense. Why is playing under center becoming a talking point now? And why is it, in your estimation, so very important?
Well, I think number one, I think the running game could be more effective. The running back is going downhill now on runs, whether waiting for the quarterback to shuffle in to go and get to a run. I think it adds up the play action passing that can help. And I think, you talk about so many of the quarterbacks in the shotgun. Look at college football. I mean, you go back to Division III, Augustana, they're in shotgun all the time. I think the quarterbacks are really used to that. I know when I played, we didn't use the shotgun. And one of the reasons why is that I hated to take my eyes off the secondary to look for the ball and look it in. I look up, they move. If I'm under center, I could go and I could take my first step. I'm seeing exactly what's going to go happen. Yeah. So, and if your drop's correct, you're not turning your back on the defense, Solly. That's that safety talk you're talking about again.
Oh, well, I do remember Boomer turning his back.
Yes,
and that was action deep routes
on play action passes. Correct.
That's what I'm talking.
But not on dropbacks.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. On play action, deep play action, and the reason why, and I think it's for a good reason. I'm not saying there's some flaw there, and I tell people all the time, play action for defense. Our job is the number one thing is when the ball is snapped, we've got to determine. Is it a run or a pass play? I don't care what position you play on defense. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you have to do. Because if someone said, well, what are you doing this play? I'm going to say, well, that depends. Are they running it? Or are they throwing it? So I have to really be able to decipher if it's a run or a pass. Now, we have our clues. We key in on our different reads. But you and I both know quarterbacks who are really good at ball handling, and that's really what we're talking about here. If you're really good and adept at handling the ball and giving just a little bit of subterfuge, not revealing who has the ball fakes, handoff, movements, real quick movements, sleight of hand stuff, it really does help create openings up front. It does abate the pass rush for a split second. And as a safety, as a defensive back, if I can see where you have the ball, if you're in shotgun and I can see what you're looking at, what you're reading, now I get to play around. I can disguise and move around. But if you're deep, if you're under center and you go deep, play action, turn your back to me, as Boomer would do plenty of times, and I imagine you did it a few times yourself, I got to hold my position. I got to wait because you can come up chucking it just about anywhere, or guess what? Someone could be hitting it off that 5 hole coming off tackle. But I'm trying to read you. I'm trying to read the guards. I'm trying to read my keys, but it slows you down, Kenny, as you well know, just a little bit. So the quarterbacks who know how to play around with that, I do think they help elevate the offense just by its design and by its execution.
Yeah, well, and I think number one on play action, it's usually either a 7 or 8 man protection.
That's right.
So that really solidifies things for the quarterback. And you mentioned, slowing that pass rush down just a little bit. Yeah. I think the other thing, tying the play action into your runs and maybe having, more than one thing off of, that the play action that they had throwing the ball to Chase Brown for the touchdown, a couple series before that, they ran the same action that threw the ball down the field. So here I'm giving them the same look, and now I'm throwing a screen when the last time I threw it down the field. Yeah. So, I think they're tying things together nicely.
Yeah. I can tell you this. I remember Gary Kubiak. He came out of the Mike Shanahan coaching tree. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, Coach Shanahan had coached with Bill Walsh out in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, you know how you run the zone read, that outside zone, and you come off of that with this bootleg action. And it's usually a naked boot. As you well know, you're leaving the end man unblocked. Mm-hmm. Most quarterbacks don't want to, because you have to turn your back to the guy, right? Mm-hmm. And when you come out, he's going to literally be right there in your face. and now, but you're dragging people across the field, so you're going to have someone to throw the ball to. But that is probably one of the more precarious positions for quarterbacks to be in, coming off that zone, outside zone read, reverse boot action, leaving that in unblocked. Kind of walk me through that and how uncertain it is knowing that guy is unblocked when your back is turned to him.
Well, first of all, I liked this when we had a guy that may be blocking it before he went out. So he slowed down, but then you had it. But other than that, you rely on the coaches up in the press box, maybe the backup quarterback, when you're running that zone play, that you see that backside defensive end crashing and trying to catch that play. And that's when you come to slow him down a little bit. So, as a quarterback and as a quarterback coach, one of the things that you do is you work and practice a lot on that fake and getting your head around and how to give ground and make a quick throw if it's needed, if that defensive end isn't taking the bait.
Yeah, it's a very effective play. There's no doubt about it. I've seen some big plays come off of it. However, I've seen a J.J. Watt or two make a big play themselves off of it. So it is one of those plays I think is enjoyable to watch because it does, I think, involve great ball handling by the quarterback. So, Kenny, do we make it into the playoffs? We got 4 more to finish strong. I'd love for this team to get into the postseason and kind of prove their mettle that we are a great team with a great quarterback when Joe Burrow is with us.
Well, why not? I mean, you look at the last 2 teams that we beat, nobody really expected us to do that. Going down into Jacksonville, I mean, I don't think there was anybody that thought we were going to win that game. Monday night game the road.
That's right.
And I think the last time that the Bengals won a road Monday night game or primetime game might have been, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. But to go down there and perform and played well. And then this game, I mean, Indy was on, a 4-game winning streak.
That's right.
They were on a backup quarterback, but Gardner Minshew had been playing really well. They got Minnesota coming in. That's had their struggles. Their starting quarterback is out. They're playing a backup as well. Then we go to Pittsburgh. I think, we know we can do that up there. They're not an explosive offense right now. And I think, we got a chance to there. you know, but when you look at the schedule, why not? And that's what my sweatshirt said. You know, I had a couple of years ago. You know, why not us? It's crossed out. No, it is us. You know, and I think these guys have the belief.
Yeah.
You know, they've been, you know, to the AFC Championship game the last 2 years. They know what it takes to win. You know, hearing Zach, you know, talk about, well, you know, guys, we got another one coming up. We got another 6-day week. We just went through that. They know how to handle, you know, the situation. So I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility. I think we had 3 out of the 4. You know, we probably got to get to 10 games. But, you know, why not? You know, it's if they continue to play like they are, if they continue to execute, if you don't beat yourselves. I mean, we saw it, you know, last night in the Kansas City game. They got the game-winning play, and they got a receiver that lined up offsides, you know, unforced errors. You know, you can't make those. So I tell you what, I'm not going to count this team out, you know, and especially the way that they've adjusted. You know, all of a sudden, you know, we got a running game, you know, and gosh, you know, you took between Joe and Joe Mixon and Chase Brown, you know, geez, they both had, you know, the combined, they're over 100 yards rushing and passing. You know, that's another thing the defense has got to account for.
Yeah.
You know, Jamar wasn't as big a part of the, you know, getting the ball yesterday as he was before. Well, you know, all of a sudden, you know, who's going to pick up the pace? And, but, you know, you don't, you know, here's, you know, wide receivers, you know, some what they can be like, and, you know, a little bit selfish, so we say at times. But whether it's Jamar or T. Higgins, if they don't have big numbers and the team wins, that's all they care about. You know, numbers aren't important except the wins and losses. That's what I really love about this team.
It's a really good group. There is no doubt they stick together and play hard for one another. I think Joe Mixon has been phenomenal this season. He's given us some energy at that running back position, whether he's catching it or running it 125 yards from scrimmage yet again in the win against the Indianapolis Colts, who, oh, by the way, came in here with the second most sacks of any defense in the NFL, but couldn't touch our quarterback. And they had the second most takeaways as well. They did get the one interception for a pick six, so they got us there, but I thought we handled the ball very well. By the way, have you ever had a wide receiver who lined up offsides? Because they're checking with the official on every single play. I don't know how that happens in an NFL game. Help me out here, Kenny.
I wish I knew, you know, and I feel so bad, you know, for that kid, you know, and it's kind of all pointing, you know, to him then. But I think, you know, all you got to do is look out the official, and he'll kind of tell you if you're good or you're not. And I didn't see anybody. I didn't see him checking, but you know, one of the officials on the sideline kind of help him out.
Yeah, it's
oh
customary.
Well.
Yeah, you know, you've coached the position. You've coached wide receivers in this league. Kenny Anderson, 16 years as a player in the league and 17 as a coach, right?
Yep.
You coach quarterbacks.
One year receiver coach, which was really interesting down in Jacksonville. But you know, had a great player in Jimmy Smith down there, so that made my job a little bit easier too.
Oh, Jimmy Smith was one of the best. A truly great receiver, great talent. So I know you had to have fun doing that. Look, Kenny, always great to speak with you and talk ball with you. We appreciate you. You mean so much to the National Football League. There's no doubt about it. You've done great things. I know you're going to continue to do that. And I know you reach out and you talk with players, and they should certainly be talking with you and tapping into some of your knowledge. We thank you for sharing that knowledge with us today here on the Believe in Bengal podcast on Bally Sports Ohio. We want to thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll catch you next time.